Hello, YouTube sphere. We are back live, and it's Real Estate Tuesday. Let me get my other ones all here. Let me go. Same time. Can I hit it? I got to start off with a smile every single time because it's Real Estate Tuesday. Aren't you excited to be here? I am doing little adjustments. Supposed to start at 12, but I was so excited to get on. I was like, let me go ahead and start because like I said, I'm excited to teach this week. As you can see, I'm coming live from the classroom, Real Estate Tuesday, and I'm talking to the first time home buyers. But if you are a homeowner who are maybe looking to move and maybe you made some mistakes the first time or you learned some lessons the first time when you were looking for your home, these are some things you need to look for when you're about to go and start doing your tours. So I'm here to educate you. So my name is Toria Howard. I am the RE educator, real estate educator, and I am here to educate you on how to increase your financial IQ so that you can increase your chances to invest in yourself either through an investment property or a personal property. However you want to do it. Real estate is my game. I am licensed real estate agent here in the beautiful city of Detroit and the surrounding areas. And just because I'm in Michigan doesn't mean I cannot assist you. So I can go, I have real estate agents all across this country, north, west, south, east, Midwest. I know a lot of real estate agents, but you come here to get your education and then you get sent out to other real estate agents where you are and you're ready by then. So I love to educate. I am a teacher by trade. I've been educating people, children since 2003. Yes, I know I don't look the part, but um, since 2003, I found my passion for teaching, and I found my passion of teaching real estate and financial literacy through my own struggles. My financial literacy. I had bought a house in 2010. I've told this story before, but those of you that just might be hearing this for the first time, I bought a house in 2010 in Memphis, Tennessee, where I was living. It was a 4 bedroom, 2.5 bathroom house, 150,000. 2,700 square feet. I'm not shorted. It was all probably by almost zero point 0.3 acres, had a 2-car garage, like everything. Memphis don't really have basements, because of the flooding, but it was it was a dream come true to get that home at 150,000, my first home, but I fumbled it, y'all. I did not have a financial strategy when I moved it to my home. I had a financial strategy going in, but throughout the time I stayed in my home, I did not have a financial strategy. So I ended up selling my home in a short sale because I was so behind on repairs and different things. And a short sale is basically everybody gets paid but you. So I, after I got into real estate, I realized how much I did not understand. And if I would have just waited and been more patient, then hi Dimitri, I would have been more, knowledgeable, and I would have never sold my house at a short sale. But my house grew from 150,000 all the way to like over 300,000. So I fumbled almost a $200,000 bag. So I'm showing you how not to do that. So, like I said, this is for first time home buyers today. But like I said, if you are a homeowner who may learn some lessons about looking at your first home, I am here to show you how to go about it because a lot of times when we go into our homes, I know I still get mesmerized when I go into. And first and foremost, let me say this: like, follow, share, subscribe. If you have not done so already, please do so. Share this with someone you feel needs it, and you might need it. And you can reach out to me if you have any other further questions. So a lot of times when you are looking at homes, you get glamorized by what you see, especially people who are doing these flips and you they flipped old homes, especially here in Detroit. We have a lot of older homes and a lot of work has to be done to these homes in order to get them up to par. Sometimes things are skipped. So I'm going to show you today some of the things that you need to look for besides the beautiful kitchen, the bathrooms, the flooring, and all of the light fixtures. All of those things are great. The curb appeal. These are some of the things that you should look for when you are touring homes so that you are not making learning that lesson, even though your inspection is going to catch some of these things, but not maybe not everything. Maybe you don't have a good inspector. So you need to be able to have an eye for these things. I've taken um, general contractor courses, so I can tell some of the things. I didn't pass my test, but I still learned a lot from that experience. So when I go into a house, I look at it very, very differently. I can tell when a roof is not good. Uh, well, hey, Jet Renaissance Club. Hi, David. How you doing? So I could tell when a roof is not good. I could tell when there's rotten wood. I could tell where there's foundation issues. So it's a lot of things I can see at a different glance and a different eye because I'm more knowledgeable. So what I'm talking about today is it's not just the pretty kitchen. So these are some red flags as a buyer you don't want to miss during your showings. Okay. So what most people love when they first go into a home, besides when they pull up, they're like, oh, okay, it's the kitchen. A lot of people when they are flipping homes spend lot more money on the kitchen because even if you don't cook, people love a good kitchen. It don't matter if it's gonna stay the same. They're not gonna cook a meal in there themselves. People still want a beautiful kitchen. So sometimes we get mesmerized by that. The next thing is like the master bathroom. And for like in Detroit, if you got a finished basement, oh, it's over. Good kitchen, good master bathroom, and a finished basement. You're done. Like it's over, right? So don't get mesmerized by those things. Like they say, don't have on these rose-colored glasses when you're going into these homes. You got to be able to pay attention to different things. So I'm gonna go into it, but you got to look at, you know, not just the cosmetic, but the work of it all. You know, sometimes people don't do good work. You have to be able to have a keen eye and pay attention to that. So, cosmetic upgrades don't pay the bills, repairs do. So, you want to have a money protection strategy. And that's what I'm teaching you today, or how to avoid these things when you're looking at a home. So, first things first is foundation. Foundation, I'm going to tell you the 5 most important things that cost a lot in a home. It's foundation, it's roof, it's HVAC, electrical, and plumbing. Especially here in Detroit, our plumbing in some areas are still back in the 1800s, 1900s when the house was built. Like my old house was built in 1928, you know? So you have to be able, those are the 5 major things that cost the most. So one of those things, foundation, you have to make sure that you are looking for any cracks, right? Any cracks in the sidewalk, the driveway, the brick on the outside. Um, Even if it's a small crack, you got to try to figure out. It's not a true red flag if it's like a hairline, like a little crack, but it can spread. So you have to make sure that you're paying attention to that. If steps are creaking, if a floor feels soft, that could be a foundation issue. Like you walk into a house and it's a little bouncy, or a little it sink down, or you feel a level dip, like it go up and then it go down. That's a foundation issue. It could be floorboards, it could be joists, those different types of things. Those are things you cannot see, but you have to make sure when you're walking through, you're feeling these things. Doors that don't close evenly. You got an uneven door, could be the house is tilting. Um, like I said, sloping floors, uneven floorboards, that could be a foundation issue. If you see large cracks or just little cracks in the walls, ceilings, make sure that you're paying attention to that, especially in the upper. If it's like a bungalow, if you have an upper room, or you have a Tudor style home, or a 2-story, or a colonial, uh, craftsman style home, especially older homes. Make sure that you're paying attention to the cracks in the wall at the top of the wall, because it's going to slide down to the middle and then all the way to the end. So it's kind of like, ladies, when you run your stockings, it start little and then it gets big. So you got to pay attention to that. And that could be, a lot of times the hairline cracks in the walls and stuff. It's just the earth moves, unfortunately. But if you start to see it, if it looks, like it's going to continue and creep down, then you make sure that you're paying attention to that. So foundation issues can range from $5,000 to $30,000. So if you're not paying attention to these things, you can have some big issues in the end. If you have a lot of trees in your yard and it's covering your roof and your roof is not breathing, water can seep down because it's going to pack, especially here because our snow load is 50 psi. So that snow constantly packs down and it's not breathing because the trees are covering it and it's not drying. The water can start to, seep into that to those shingles and get into your home, which can cause foundation issues. So you need to make sure that you're paying attention to those type of things. Cut trees back. If you have large trees in your yard and it's breaking up your driveway, you got large cracks. Because when I had my house in Memphis, we had 15 trees in our yard and all pine trees. Pine trees are the worst too. Um, and it was breaking up our driveway. And we saw that as soon as we moved in. We had to make sure that we changed that. We cut 9 trees down, and cut trees down. It's not cheap either. But it made our insurance go down too because we're able to protect the house. Because if a house, we getting a lot of wind in Memphis. So if it had tree fall on the house, same thing here. But you got big, because we have big old oak trees and maple trees, and some of them are dead and they fall because we got heavy snow. You got an insurance claim, then your insurance going up. So those some different things. So like I said, foundation issues can cost you 5,000 to $30,000. So that money could have gone towards your emergency savings, renovations to add value, and investing in another property. So you don't want to spend $30,000 um, when you could have avoided that. So I've seen buyers fall in love with the $10,000 kitchen, ignore the $20,000 foundation issue that wipes out their savings. You don't want to do that. So bring a marble or a coin to a showing, and if it rolls, ask questions. Right. So if it's sloped down, if it moves in a certain type of way, you need to ask questions. So the next thing is HVAC. So comfort equals cash flow. So you need to make sure. So a lot of times buyers, because you're so mystified of how the house look, you might not pay attention to that old unit in the backyard or wherever it's located. And a lot of times homes here, if you're in a neighborhood that's up and coming, they don't even have the furnace and HVAC and stuff in yet until you move in. So you got to ask these questions because they have to have it in once the appraisal, because people still in that type of stuff, unfortunately. But you won't know until the appraisal. But even if it's there, you need to make sure you're looking at that. So looking at the age of the furnace. So on the furnace, when you go downstairs in the basement, typically here, and then it's usually a utility closet if you don't have a basement somewhere on the main floor. You will see when it's been serviced, because you're supposed to get your furnace serviced like at least once a year, making sure that it's functioning properly. Also your HVAC system, sometimes twice, depending on like what climate you're in. So you want to make sure that you're avoiding that and making sure that you're looking to see when the last time it was maintenance. So if it looks really old, rusting and stuff like that, it could be older. Loud cycling and uneven temperatures, but you can find that out during the inspection. And if it's near the end of its life, so a HVAC unit only lasts 10 to 15 years. So just understand, if you plan on staying in the house for a long period of time, if the HVAC system is 5 years old once you move in, technically you only have 5 to 10 more years with the HVAC system. Excuse me. So that means you need to be having your emergency maintenance fund, like I've spoke about in previous videos, to make sure you're mitigating those costs of that HVAC system. So HVAC replacement can be between 6,000 to 12,000, depending on the square feet of your home. So if you have, like me, I had 2 units because I had 2 levels and my house was 2,700 square feet. So typically if you got a house that's like, I would say probably 1,500 square feet or less, and it's like 1 level, you only need 1. But if you have if you have a split level, you would most likely have 2. And if you're going beyond like, talking about 5,000 square feet, you might have 3, 4. So it just all depends on the square footage of your home. So if you talk about if you only got one HVAC system, right, that's $6,000 to $12,000, and now $12,000 on the high end, though. That's if you get like a train. Those are HVAC. Not trying to promote them or nothing. I hope they don't block this, but train and those higher upper echelon HVAC systems, those are on the higher end, and you get the lower end ones or whatever, as long as it works for you and your budget. But it just all depends. The train ones, they typically supposed to last longer. But older systems also equal higher utility bills. So you got to think about that too, especially if it's not energy efficient, and especially if you got old windows too. Coupled with that, energy bill high, especially here. Uh, what piece of real estate would estates fall under? Um, Are you saying like a state? Like you saying like luxury? Typically, if it's called an estate and it has grounds and all of that, is usually luxury mansion, uh, villa, depending on where it's located, if it's off the water or whatever. But that's estates are usually something that's really large. I would say probably an acre or more. Typically, you could say it's an estate as a typical the average. I know here, if you're in a bigger city, the average square acreage that you're going to get is probably about 0.2 acres, maybe 3, maybe a half, depending on, maybe. But estates are typically in a higher acreage, and they're considered like luxury or farmhouses or whatever, depending on where it's located. um so back to the HVAC. So efficiency impacts your monthly affordability, not just your mortgage payment. So if you're paying a high utility bill, that's a good question, David. If you're paying a higher utility bill, that can cost you some of the savings that you need to have for your maintenance. So just make sure that you're understanding that. So the low mortgage doesn't help if your utility bills are 4, 5, 6, $1,000. You know what I mean? So make sure that you are being mindful of those energy saving things up front. Um, so when you're touring a home, you want to ask for the manufactured date. Not just does it work. What is the manufacturer date, right? So the next thing is roof red flags, right? This the roof kind of protects your equity because it covers the house. So what you want to look for when you can't really, if you got a taller house, a double, if it's a multi-level house, sometimes you cannot see these things, but you might be able to see it from different angle points. So make sure that you're, striving your best when you walk in the exterior, when you're doing your home tours, to look for curling or missing shingles, soft spots in attics, and ceiling stains. Excuse me. So if you have a multi-unit house and you have an attic, if you go in the attic, you'll be able to see if the roof, on the inside is leaking, if there's stains, if there's soft joists, soft wood or anything like that. The roof age versus material lifespan. So typically, depending on the type of material, a roof can last between 10 years to 40 years. So it just all depends on the type of material that you have. Like the cheaper shingles, composites, they don't last that long. But you talk about those metal roofs and all of them that, they cost more upfront, but they last longer. So it's kind of like you break even. So a roof replacement can cost you between $8,000 to $20,000, depending on the square foot of the coverage of that roof. Because sometimes your roof spans the whole entire, your roof is going to span the whole entire square footage in your home because it has to cover, has some covering. So a roof doesn't have to be leaking to be a financial liability. So especially here in Michigan, where we get a lot of moisture, we get a lot of snow packed on, it's been cold. Every single season, you should be getting so I would say 4 times a year, you should be getting your roof inspected, making sure that There's no missing shingles. There's, everything is good with that. So, like I said, 4 times a year for the roof, every quarter, especially if you're a climate. If you're in a drier climate, you get more sun. Like here, I would definitely say, because I'm in Michigan, 4 times a year because we get a lot of snow, a lot of moisture, especially from, it seems like from November all the way to like April, we get a lot of moisture. So make sure that you are making, doing those adjustments when you're thinking about your roof. The furnace needs to be, inspected once a year. Foundation, you just kind of pay attention to that. I would say twice a year, just kind of making sure you're doing your twice a year maintenance and walking around. So the last thing I want to talk about is water damage. Oh, can water damage be? Oof, can be a lot. Um, I experienced water damage in my first home. I had bought my house in March. I left to go get my hair done. I was gone for probably about 4 or 5 hours from my house. When I came back and opened the garage, I went to get my hair done. It was raining on the inside of my garage, like out. I mean, a lot of water, and I was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" I go in my house. It was ankle deep. I was like, "Oh my God!" And it was water coming from every light fixture in my kitchen, in my dining room, and in my living room because I had a long living room. And I saw it from the kitchen because I had a doorway. And when I went in the bathroom, it was water coming down. When I went upstairs, it was just so much water upstairs. It went from because my master bedroom was on the right, and then all the other rooms were down the hallway. It had went all the way to my back room because I had 4 bedrooms, and that was a $20,000 insurance claim. Moved in March, May. My insurance wasn't even paid because they pay it yearly. My insurance wasn't even paid yet. And I had a $20,000 water damage claim. And insurance companies don't like to pay, unfortunately. They will, but when you got something else that comes along, they're gonna be like, well, they wouldn't let me do a claim for 5 years. And then when I tried to switch insurance, they was like, "Ooh, you had that $20,000 water damage claim that's still sitting on there, that your premium is gonna be high." It's not my fault. But though, one of the things that was not inspected in my walkthrough, because I was glamorized by the kitchen in my master bedroom, had 2 master closets. We had a jetted tub, separate shower. Like, yeah, it was cool. But what buyers miss, fresh paint in one room only could hide water damage, musty smell, especially in basements. So you don't want to miss that. Stays near windows, basements, or under the sink. It's a leak there, or you see those brown spots. So water damage often causes mold, and mold remediation could cost a lot of money. So you can't even really put a figure on it because it's basically your home is condemned until they get the mold out because it's so hazardous. Uh, so you have to make sure that you're paying attention to your plumbing. So water damage often, you know, uh, leads to the mold plus moisture issues is a uninsurable or unfinanceable home. So that can cause you to not be able to get insurance, or your insurance may drop you, or you might not be able to get any fight if you want to refinance or you want to do a HELOC like I talked about last week. So it could delay closings and or kill resale value. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to that water. So typically with the water, um, damage, like I said, you're looking for water around the windows, water around the uh, the ceilings in the attic. So you have different areas that you look for, especially under the sink. Uh, Anytime you got upper rooms in those ceilings of those rooms. One of the things that I hear that is good, is like when you're renovating a home, is that you put green board on your ceilings, because you usually do green board. This is drywall on the walls behind the shower, the bathtub, and sink. But you should put it on your ceiling. That protects it too. It costs a little bit more, but in the end, it won't cause that water damage from your roof. It'll save it. So that's just a little contractor tip that I learned. Uh, so, like I said, we're budgeting, talking about what to look for when you're doing these home walkthroughs, especially in places where the house was old and it's been flipped. Make sure that you understanding that things could not have been done properly because it might have been done in a rush. So, pretty homes sell emotions. Smart homes build wealth. So make sure that you are understanding that you're buying smart. Your goal is not just buying a home, it's keeping your money after closing. You have to have a financial strategy. So this is exactly why I wrote Journey to Your Castle, to help buyers avoid expensive mistakes and build wealth the right way. So please reach out to me. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about today, or you go back and look at any of my other videos, or you have a question about what I discussed, if you want a consultation, you can definitely reach out to me on all of my platforms and let me know. My phone number and my the way to reach out to me is on my it's linked to all going to be linked to it's in my bio, and it's also linked to my YouTube on the in the description. So I'm not hard to find. You can send me a DM, a PM, whatever the case may be. So that's it. I bid you all adieu. Thank you for tuning in. Those of you that are going to rewatch this, I appreciate it. And share it to someone who's a future homeowner or looking for a home who, so they can avoid these hard money lessons, because maybe they didn't see this when they first bought their first home, but they can see it now. So peace out. Have an amazing day, everyone. Bye, YouTube and IG.